Hello guys. Welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here and excited because we are finally sitting down to do a full pantry tour. I've taken everything out of my pantry so that I can show you guys. I've had so many requests to do this. I find that having a really well-stocked pantry makes healthy eating and healthy cooking just so much easier. And honestly, one of the first things that I did when I moved out and started living on my own was getting my pantry in order. It makes eating healthy a lot easier. So we are just going to jump right into the video. I've kind of broken everything down into sections. I'm also going to include a few things that aren't technically pantry staples. I keep them in my fridge or my freezer, but I still count them as part of that pantry. I'm gonna either have everything typed out for you guys in the description box below, or I'll just end up making a PDF that you guys can download that has everything. Let's start off with the most common things that you think of, and that is spices. So of course, just starting off with salt and pepper. I really like the Redmond's real salt. I just find that it tastes the best and it's unrefined, so you're still getting all of those beneficial minerals that you should be getting in salt. A lot of the times if you have table salt, it's stripped of a lot of the essential minerals that we have, so I like using an unrefined sea salt. And then of course the next thing is all of my spices. So this is really going to depend on you and your personal preference, but just starting out, we have my two holy grail. You guys know I use parsley and garlic powder on basically everything that I eat. Some of my other favorites are cinnamon. I always look for Ceylon cinnamon as opposed to Saya cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon is a different type of cinnamon. It's a little bit more expensive than just the normal cinnamon that you would find in the grocery store, but it has a lot more health benefits, and it also doesn't have the high coumarin content that typical cinnamon has. So that's why I get that. Another herb that I love cooking with, especially more so in the winter, is turmeric. Again, turmeric has curcumin in it, which is that potent antioxidant. You do have to use a lot of turmeric to get the therapeutic dose. Like, it's not the same thing, obviously, as taking a curcumin supplement. It's still something that I love to use. I always have dill. This is oregano, basil, onion, cumin, paprika, sage, and then red pepper flakes. And then I also have some bay leaves. I love keeping these on hand to put in soups or stews. To be honest, probably 90% of the spices that I use are the garlic, parsley, cinnamon, and dill. I love using herbs and spices in cooking. They are all very high in polyphenols, very high in antioxidants. They are incredible for your health. I also love having fresh herbs on hand in the summer. I just live alone, and I find that if I buy fresh herbs, I don't go through them fast enough, and then they just wilt and they sit in my fridge. So I really like keeping all the dried herbs on hand. I am planning on putting a little herb garden on my balcony this summer, so we will see how that goes. Moving on, let's chat a little bit about my dried goods that I keep on hand. So I don't use these too much, but I do like to keep them on hand. I have a few beans. So these are just dried white beans. These are dried lentils that I keep on hand. I have some oats. These are the ones that I like. They are glyphosate free. I really do my best to avoid glyphosate just because of the impact that we see that it has on our health and the gut microbiome. So I really like these because they are sprouted and glyphosate free, so a little bit easier to digest. And I also have some of those that I ground up in my Vitamix just to make some oat flour. It's a really great thing to keep on hand. And then for grains, I have this mix. This is a brown rice and wild rice mix. I have some quinoa, and then I have some white rice as well. Moving on to kind of baking, I have some baking powder and baking soda. Oh, this is baking soda, this is baking powder. Don't use baking powder very often. I'll use it on occasion when I bake something, but to be honest, I just don't bake that much. And then in terms of pasta and noodles, so for pasta and noodles, I have a few things on hand. These are just some buckwheat and sweet potato noodles, but I also love soba noodles or anything like that. And then for pasta, talked about this a few videos back, but I have been loving the Jovial cassava flour pasta. This is the best gluten-free pasta that I've had. It doesn't fall apart the same way that brown rice or quinoa pasta does. So I've really been enjoying that. And then if I do have wheat pasta, I do try and look for the one that is imported from Italy. I just find that it digests a bit better. It tastes better. So this is the one that I like. You guys know I also like to go to Italy and get fresh pasta. I'm not quite at the level of homemaking where I'll make my own pasta, but maybe we'll get there one day. Who knows? Moving right along, let's talk about nuts and seeds. So I store all of my nuts and seeds in the freezer. This helps preserve the fatty acids within them. It just allows allows them to last longer and keeps them fresh. I don't eat a ton. I really prefer nut butters. You guys know I like those. I love my tahini. I love my peanut butter. I love my almond butter, but I do keep some nuts and seeds on hand. Here I have some Brazil nuts, pumpkin seeds, cashews, pine nuts, and almonds. And then I also keep on hand some chia seeds and flax seeds. This is a good reminder to me. I really do need to start eating more flax and chia seeds because they are so good for you. Moving on, what do we want to talk about next? Let's talk about oils. Starting off, this is my olive oil that I use. I am thinking that when I finish this bottle, I'll probably look into getting even higher quality olive oil. This one's really great. When I'm looking to buy olive oil, I always look for ones that are organic. You want them to be in a glass, dark bottle. Oil and fats are just very sensitive to light and heat. So having them in a dark bottle helps to preserve the fatty acids. Always look for a press by date as well. The really high quality ones will have the date that the olive oil was pressed on, and you always want one that's within 6 months. The more fresh, the better. I'll keep you guys updated on what olive oil I buy next because I'm probably gonna do some research and look into just higher quality olive oils because you guys know I eat a lot of olive oil. I have it on my salad basically every day. And then if I'm cooking something at a higher temperature, I will use avocado oil. It's just more stable at higher temperature. And again, I always look for ones that are in a glass and dark bottle. And then I don't really eat coconut oil, but you guys know I do coconut oil pulling in the morning, every morning for my oral microbiome and just for the antimicrobial properties. So I always keep coconut oil on hand. And then to go along with my oils, we have the vinegars. I don't keep too many vinegars on hand. I know there's so many that you can have. You guys know I love my apple cider vinegar. It's great for salad dressings, but it's also great for before meals to help stabilize blood sugar. Although if you guys watched my last video, you know that my blood sugar results on my blood work came back amazing. I'm really happy with that. The other vinegar that I have on hand is rice vinegar. I like this when I make my peanut sauce. The other thing is that if I'm using a recipe that I found online and it calls for a vinegar that I don't have, like a white wine vinegar or a red wine vinegar, sometimes I'll just substitute with a vinegar that I have on hand. I feel like if a chef is watching this, they'd be like, you can't do that, but I don't know. I do it and it tastes fine most of the time. So that's just something that I do. You don't need to have every single thing in your pantry. If you have a well-stocked pantry, you can always swap things out in recipes. At least I do that and I've survived until now. The other thing is that I do love balsamic vinegar as well. I love this with olive oil on salads. It is just a delicious salad dressing. Moving on, let's talk about sweeteners. My two favorite sweeteners are maple syrup. I am Canadian, so I love some maple syrup or just some raw honey. I also like to use coconut sugar on occasion. So those are the sweeteners that I keep on hand. In terms of some other things that are always kicking around in my pantry, I always have rice paper rolls. You guys know I love to make tofu rice paper rolls with peanut sauce. It's one of my favorite spring summer meals. And then I also like to keep nori sheets on hand, basically wrap anything in a nori sheet. So I really like to keep that on hand as well. Moving on to teas. I wasn't sure if I was going to include these, but you guys are always asking me for tea recommendations. So let's start out with my loose leaf teas. So these are two that I made at the clinic. This one I believe has hibiscus, licorice, burdock, and dandelion, which is one of my favorite combos. And then this one I believe also has hibiscus and licorice just because those are two of my favorite herbs. And then I think it also has alfalfa and astragalus in it. So those are two that I love to keep on hand. And then in terms of pre-made teas, I do use the traditional medicines one. So when I'm buying pre-packaged teas, there are a few brands that I've looked into that don't have any microplastics within their tea bag, which is something that I look for. So I really like the traditional medicines. I personally love their throat coat flavor, not because of the medicinal properties of it, just because I really like the taste of it. So I always have that one on hand. And then lastly, let's just talk about the things that I always keep in my fridge. So starting out with my nut butters, you guys know I love nut butters. So I always have some organic peanut butter, always have tahini on hand. I get this from a store here in Toronto, so I really like this tahini. And then I do love almond butter as well. This is one that I picked up in Trader Joe's while I was traveling in the US. And then some other condiments condiments that I always like to keep on hand. I do love mustard. It's just a very versatile condiment. And then I don't use it too often, but I do like to keep some avocado mayo on hand just in case we're making burgers or I'm making a tuna salad or something like that where I need some mayo. And then the last two things that I have on hand are some miso paste. Again, great for soups, stews, just adding some depth of flavor. And then nutritional yeast, great for salad dressings, great for sauces. This is also great if you are cooking a lot of vegan or vegetarian dishes. My parents are vegan and they use nutritional yeast a ton in kind of non-dairy cheese sauces and things like that. That is my full pantry tour. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's everything that I keep on hand. I know that it can seem like a lot. So if you are just starting from scratch and you're just building your pantry, I would say just start with buying things one thing at a time. Slowly replace your oils with high quality oils. Slowly buy herbs and spices as you need them. Same thing, slowly buy nuts and seeds as you need them or grains as you need them. And before you know it, you will have a full stocked pantry. And then you can really customize your pantry. Figure out what you used a lot of and then, prioritize that within your pantry. I'm gonna put all this away and then I really want to also quickly talk about a few non-toxic kitchen swaps that I also use just to create a healthy, non-toxic kitchen. So now we're gonna chat a little bit about low tox and non-toxic kitchen swaps that I've made over the past few years. But first, I also forgot to mention the two things that I always have in my fridge, and that is sauerkraut and kimchi. You guys know I love these. I have fermented foods basically every day, and these are staples that I always have on hand. Okay, so now that we've talked about those, I wanted to chat a little bit about some of the low tox swaps that I've made in my kitchen over the past few years. I always say low tox because in our modern world, there is just no way that we can avoid all the chemicals. So I really say there's no such thing as a no tox lifestyle. Our goal is to really have a low tox lifestyle. And again, you don't have to do this all at once. You can replace things kind of as needed. First off, let's talk about pans because I always get asked where I get my pans from. So in terms of non-toxic cookware, my favorites are 100% cast iron, 100% stainless steel, or 100% ceramic. Don't use the ceramic coated pans. I like to go for 100% ceramic if I can. Also, none of these are sponsored. This is my mini 100% ceramic pan. It's from the brand Extrema. I will link them down below. I love this. It's the perfect size for if I'm just making eggs for one person. Yeah, this is their 7-inch skillet. It's also stovetop and oven safe, so you can pop it in the oven. I used to have their large one, but it broke. And to be honest, I don't think that I'm gonna replace it because one, the shipping fee to send it to Canada is just gonna be really expensive. And two, I've actually just been enjoying my other pans that are a larger size. So I don't think I'm gonna replace it, but I do love this and I always get questions about this pan. Moving on, let's talk about my stainless steel one. So this is probably my favorite pan that I have been using. I love the way that it performs. I love how easy it is to clean. And I like that it's a lot lighter than my cast iron or my old 100% ceramic one. It's just a lot easier to use. I believe that this is the 11-inch one. I'm probably going to purchase this one in a smaller size as well. I feel like I need a 10 or a 9-inch pan, something in between this and my small one. But overall, I love this one. I bought it at Canadian Tire. I have not been able to find a US link for this one, but really any sort of stainless steel pan will do. And then my last one is my cast iron. I got this one for Christmas this year. I really like it. My only complaint again with the cast iron is that it's a lot heavier. It's a lot harder to clean than my stainless steel one. So for that reason, I don't tend to use it as much. So those are really all of my pans. You guys have seen my apartment. It's not that big, so I really don't like to own that many pans. Moving on to bakeware, again, I just like to use stainless steel. Also for other appliances, I have my stainless steel measuring cup, kind of other utensils. I always try and use either stainless steel or wood. Again, I try and avoid any silicone or plastic because again, whenever you're heating food and it's warm, that is when you're gonna have microplastics or chemicals leach. So whenever you're cooking warm food, I always like to use stainless steel or wood if I can. In terms of my cutting board, I've also gotten many questions asking me about my cutting board. This is a cutting board that is in, I don't know if this is backwards, it's in the shape of Arizona. I always get asked about the shape of it. I bought it when I still lived in Tucson, Arizona. So I've had this thing for years containers, I'm probably gonna have to replace it. I do say that if you can, using a wood cutting board is better than a plastic one. Again, when you're cutting food and then you're scraping it into your bowl, if you're cutting it on a plastic board, then you're gonna get some of the plastics in your food. So I always say if you can, using a wood cutting board is best. And then the last thing that I always have in my kitchen is glass containers. Again, I always say glass or stainless steel is going to be the best, especially if you're putting warm food into it. Another thing that I love doing is whenever I finish a jar of peanut butter or sauerkraut or something like that, I will always save the jar, peel off the label, throw it in my dishwasher and wash it. And then you have these leftover mason jars. They're great for storing soups or stews or anything else that you want to store. So yeah, that is kind of my low tox kitchen swaps. I will do my best to link the pans that I have down below. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, my goal is to make content that is as educational and as valuable for you as possible. So definitely let me know in the comments if you found this helpful, what you guys want to see more of, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.